so much. So we'll try to start. So again, distinguished guests, Their Excellencies, the ambassador that join us today, colleagues and dear friends. We, as said, really excited to see you all here. And this is a real diploma of honor for us and for the humble experience of Israel in managing its water sector. As Giora said, and I'll also take the opportunity to wish health to all people of the countries that are here with us today. And we will all wish prompt ending for this hard pandemic period. And when we return to normal, we could all meet in person. However, there is no doubt that this difficult situation has also presented us with new opportunities and the possibility to arrange such gathering with very modest means and much larger availability of participants to join it. It's maybe hard for you to see from this Zoom window, but we gathered today representative of water regulators and water companies, agencies, and academy for more than almost 40 countries from all the 5 continents and with 17 time zones, which is a very challenging spread from Philippines to Honduras. So we're very sorry for those who's very early morning on very late evening, but thank you again for being here with us. We're sure it wasn't easy to put this meeting in the schedule, as said, and the fact that you are here shows again that we are suggesting and doing together something that's important for all of us with our work as water regulators. In fact, we are kind of Water Olympics, a worldwide event for us, and people whose everyday responsibility is to take care of water. With one huge difference between us and the Olympic Games, we are here not to compete and to see who is the best. We are here to talk, to share, to exchange views and experiences, and basically to meet. I'm sure that all of you participate in the last year of tens of online conferences and webinars and meetings and all other kinds of online events. All of them are very important and tackle various issues of the water sector and other related aspects. Some was more formal and some enabled free discussion. But when we went to conferences in person before this hard year and not online, you all remember that our best talks were during coffee breaks, lunch, or even after the end of the official program. So why we are here? What's the difference of this initiative of e-forum for water regulators? Well, we want you all to enjoy from the best parts of both platforms. Online meetings give us a possibility to gather, as said, with minimum time efforts and no expenses at all. You don't need to be out of work for 3 days and let the email pile up. You don't require budget for plane ticket and hotel, let alone you can bring to online event as many colleagues as you like. But in online meetings, you don't have mutual coffee breaks and small talk in between, which are best for bonding and making connections. So our idea of the online forum for the water regulation is to be the informal. We are all colleagues, though we live in very distant places from each other. We deal with the same issues. That's why we suggest you a platform to meet like it was a talk with your colleague in a train on the way to work, or it's our mutual coffee break, or if we all went after a long working day to drink and eat together and discuss what's on our agenda on the daily basis, or even in the evening meeting for those from the Far East that join us today, instead of the TV show. You know, Israel is a very small country and very informal and friendly. You can easily be in a very high rank meeting of officials, but here people addressing each other with a first name or even a nickname. One writer called our home country a country in slippers, because no matter if you are with your friends or family or in an official meeting, everyone feels at home. So we invite you to our home of water regulators. We would like you to feel comfortable with us and to share your experiences with us as friends. The basic principles, the ABC of this e-forum, is meet new colleagues and friends and get acquainted. We want you to show off of your successes. Feel free to brag. We want to copy the things that you did right. And please, complain as much as you want. Tell us what went wrong, what didn't work. We will try to help and not repeat possibly the mistakes you might have. In preparation of this forum, we sent some questionnaire with various possible subjects to discuss and present. First of all, I want to thank all the participants that filled this survey. And when we analyzed it, we discovered that there was no issue that left behind and was out of interest. Everything that you see here was of high interest, and we shall try to address them all in our future meetings. At the same questionnaire, we asked the participants to write 3 main challenges in their work as water regulator. And it was really amazing to see that we received the whole spectrum, from the climate change and its implication on water resources, through water quality and quantity, water laws and regulations, challenges to implement those or even lack of these, the issues of water economy and tariffs, and the dilemmas of affordable water for all users, and the required funding for the water sector development, and so on and so on. So as Yoram said, for today's open discussion, which will come after the second presentation of my colleague, Mr. Danny Greenwald, the Deputy Director General for Regulation in the Israeli Water Authority, we invite you to start maybe right now to write in the chat box if you would like to present one main challenge of your work as a water regulator, or to ask question or bring any suggestion. As said, my colleague Yoram Rad will moderate this open discussion after the lectures. So just for start, I will introduce in a few words the Israeli challenge in managing the water sector, which Giora already addressed in his opening remarks. And who are we as the Israeli Water Authority? We'll start from far. The natural perception about water in our lives, especially those who don't deal with it every day as a job, is that it's a free commodity essential for human being and environment. And indeed, in its natural shape, it is just there, like an air. But we don't really want to use the water in its natural appearance. Our right to water today is translated for its different uses: to open the tap, to flush the water in the toilet, to operate an irrigation system, to connect water to the production line, to live in a proper sanitary and healthy environment. So today, the right for water is actually the right for water supply. And this right has its cost. That's where our task as water regulators begin. Freshwater scarcity, as presented worldwide, is a constant reality in our region. Ironically, this disadvantage, as Giora said in his opening remarks, of the stress of water resources, enabled Israel from its beginning to turn it into advantage by finding the right approach of the water sector management. From our experiences, the water scarcity today is not only physical scarcity of water, and even not a financial scarcity resource, but a management scarcity. The right reframing of this challenge may put the best way for the solution, and Mr. Greenwald will elaborate on this in his following lecture. So, who are we? We are the Governmental Authority for Water and Sewage of Israel, which is the official name, but it's just Water Authority. It was established in 2007 as an independent professional organ that has all the powers to manage, plan, regulate, and develop the water sector. But until the 2007, the powers to manage the water sector were divided between 11 ministries and organs, ironically, each one taking care of the sector with direct conflict of interest. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture set tariff for agriculture, taking into account only one thing: low price, while the revenue for developing the water sector were insufficient. The Water Commissioner, which is the previous organ on which base our current water authority was established, was a responsible organ, but has no real power to execute large infrastructure project or to deliver any required reform. It is just to say that today, as you can see from the ministries, the Ministry of Health still keeps its role and a very important authority to set the standards of the quality of water for various uses. So this is the only ministry that are still having this authority. The result of this situation of division of authorities were crises, deficit of water, environmental damages to the groundwater, obviously inevitable cutbacks in the water quotas for agriculture, and so on and so on. So it wouldn't look very easy. It took us about 10 years, accompanied by 2 long drought periods, 3 investigation committees, and a big fight in the parliament to bring into life the major structural reform and to establish the water authority. Obviously, on the way, ministries were struggling over power, sticking to the main principle. It's a very good reform, but not in my backyard. Please take it from somebody else. But after the establishment of the water authority, as said today, starting in 2007, and again, Mr. Greenwald will further present the one-stop shop model of the decision-making in our water authority. The main players in the water sector form today a triangle: the regulator, which is, as said, the Israeli Water Authority, us; the suppliers, it is one national water company, Mekorot; 56 municipal water company, which is another reform that we could speak about at least half a day, and more than 1,000 local suppliers. And of course, different consumers for different uses. In the Israeli water sector, each party understands its role. Consumers know that water is a precious commodity and its sustainable supply requires payment. Suppliers need to ensure a reliable water supply in high standards and expect a cost recovery for its services. And our mission as regulator is to maintain the system alive and balanced. But obviously, not overcomplicate things. So thank you very much. And I invite you again to write your challenges in chat box and advise to speak in the open discussion part. And I would like to ask Mr. Danny Greenwald to take the floor. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Danny Greenwald. I'm from a regulator from the Israeli Water Authority. I work under the leadership of Giora Shacham. It is my pleasure and my honor to take part in this event, meeting colleagues and some of the people I know, meeting friends, and establishing this important connection. Planning my talk today, I thought of 2 different approaches. One was give a fast overview of the Israeli water sector and then tell you all the wonderful good things we've done and our successes, which I find a little bit boring, as that we talk about quite often, or to tell you all our problems and all the things we didn't succeed and we're not managing and hear your opinion. But as it's the first meeting, I decided to go on the first option, and I will brag and tell you how lovely our system is. But I hope you will invite me again to show that I will be able to talk about our challenges, which personally I find much more interesting. Okay, let's see if we can. First challenge is the presentation. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, I don't, so wait a second. One moment, we will figure out how to deal with this. You will just move one computer and you will see me back. Okay, let's talk about the Israeli water sector. And we will start, we will be talking today about facing water challenges in scarce areas, which Israel is one of them. Where is Israel? What is Israel and what are we talking about? Israel is in the Middle East. We are along the Mediterranean. The country is a long country with different climates. In the north, we have mountains and a lot of rain. And in the south, we have a desert with practically no rain. Our neighbors are Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and the Palestinian Authority. What is our climate? We have a long dry season, which is basically from April to October with no rain at all or very little rain and the high temperatures. And we have a rainy season with low temperatures from November until March. And as you could see beforehand on our geography, that of course we have different levels of rain. We have areas which are with high, this is in Hebrew, the language we speak in Hebrew, in Israel, but we will have areas with a lot of rain and areas with practically no rain. And these are the challenges of our system. The main challenge we have in Israel is the population. Our population is growing rapidly. If you can see our population in the 1960s, it was about 2 million, and now we're 9.3 and approaching 10. We have a rapid growth of population also because of immigration and because of very high birth rates in Israel. And the challenge is that our population is growing and we always are chasing the population to be able to supply enough water for all the population. And this is our challenge, because if we take our natural water sources, then we have 1.2 billion cubic meters. And if we take our consumption, it's about 2 billion cubic meters, which means we have about half of the from natural sources, we have only half of the water that we need. And we have to find other water sources if we want our population to have water to drink, to take baths, to produce industry and agriculture. As I said, the sector in Israel, we're talking about today 9.3 million people, 200,000 hectares of irrigated field, and about 1,000 industrial plants. Industry in Israel is relatively with a low water consumption because the factor of shortages of water in Israel were always present, and the industries that evolved here were not industries that needed that much water. We're talking about an annual financial value of about $2.5 billion per year. When I'm talking about the population, I'm talking about the population of Israel. I am not talking about the population of the Palestinian Authority, our neighbors. What is our water supply? As I showed our climate, we have a long, dry summer, and agriculture during the long, dry summer is based on irrigation. So half of our water goes for agricultural irrigation, and the rest goes for domestic use and supplying to neighbors. We are supplying the water also to the Kingdom of Jordan and also to the Palestinian Authority. As the years go by, we are supplying less and less water to agriculture and more water for the domestic use because our population is growing. And another change we have in the agriculture, we are basing our agriculture on low quality water. As the years go by, and I'll emphasize this later on, most of our water for agriculture is recycled water and brackish water, and only a small part is the potable water, and this part is being smaller and smaller by year. So how do we run our system? Okay, we've talking about our challenges. We have a population growing. We have limited natural water sources. I didn't mention climate change. Is it affecting us? Is it not affecting us? It doesn't really matter. We have a shortage. Even if there isn't climate changing, we still have a shortage of water. What is our approach? We developed a sustainable approach for management of our water, which has 4 different parts. One is the integrated water resource management, governance and regulation, efficient use, and developing of new water sources. We will briefly go through each of these 4 sectors and see what are we talking about, what do we mean. So again, here we have the map of Israel. Israel has 3 main natural water sources. The first one is the Sea of Galilee, which we call it a sea, but it's a lake. It's even a relatively small lake, but it's the only one we have, so we call it a sea and we're very proud in it. And two main aquifers, a sandy aquifer, which is the coastal aquifer, and the mountain aquifer, which is a chalk aquifer. And the first things Israel did when the state of Israel was established in the 50s and the 60s, it connected these three water sources to a joint system. We have a pipe coming out of the Sea of Galilee, going south, because we have more rain in the north. So we allocated water from the north, which had a lot of water, and sent it down to our population, which is mainly sitting on the shore, and to the southern part of Israel, which was being developed at the time. And we could play with the three water sources, Sea of Galilee, shore aquifer, and mountain aquifer, to have maximum use out of our natural sources. Part of it is in open channels, and part of it is in pipes. This worked for a few years, but the population grew, the water demand grew, and we needed more sources. We'll talk later about how we use this more efficiently, but still we needed more water. And the second solution was use of reclaimed wastewater. This was supplied in separate supply systems because it was lower quality water. It's not drinking quality water. So we had local systems, and you can see the areas where the water was supplied. We have direct use, which is this color, and indirect use, which is this color. In Israel, everywhere we use water all the year, but as most of the reclaimed wastewater is used for agriculture, and the agriculture irrigation is only in the summer, then we have large reservoirs where we accumulate the water during the winter, and we use it during the summer. Lately, last few years, there's a lot of use of solar energy, which fits in these systems. Here we have solar panels on the side of the reservoir. Now, more and more cases, we have them floating on the water of the reservoir. And we have a water and energy and agriculture. In this case, these are dates, very tasty dates. Okay, this worked for a few years. And again, we had a water shortage. We've used our natural water sources. We've used the reclaimed wastewater. We still need another water source. And since the year 2005, we have large-scale seawater desalination. Right now, we have 5 different faculties that you can see here. And every few years, we will just have to build another one and to fit it into the system. And once we've made these very large-scale seawater desalinations, we've also changed the flow of water of the system. If the system was designed from the north, where we had a lot of rain, coming down to where a lot of the population are, and down to the south, where we have a lot of the agriculture, we've changed the system, and a lot of the water today is coming in from the Mediterranean system, from the Mediterranean Sea, which meant that we had to adjust our integrated system. Of course, if you were running an integrated system, when today we're using natural sources from aquifers and from surface water, and we're using treated wastewater, and we're using desalinated water, you have to have a very good database to know how much water do you have in each source, so you can decide what do you want to use. And Israel has the hydrological department, which started actually before the state of Israel was started. Before Israel was founded, Palestine was part of the British domain, the British Empire. And they founded the service, and we have very, very close, a very close picture of how much rain is there, and what is the level of the water in the different aquifers, and what is the flow from the rivers, and what is the quality. So we have a very good database, which enables us to make good decisions and decide what we should do. The second part of our integrated system is governance and regulation. By law, and this is a law from the 1950s, the water is owned by the country and the water is owned by the population, but it is run by the country, it's run by the state. This means that in Israel, you don't have a private lake, you don't have a private aquifer, you actually don't have water rights. The water is owned by everyone, and you can use it in the most efficient way that we, as regulators, can manage to plan the system. We have a lot of flexibility in Israel in how we run the system. And how do we run the system? Well, Olga showed what was the situation until 2007. when we had 11 different governmental agencies in the water sector, each one pulling the water tap in his direction. And this didn't work very well. It just didn't work very well. We couldn't have an integrated view. We couldn't have a good decision making. We couldn't, even if the decisions were made, then we couldn't implement them. And our system was deteriorating. It was deteriorating rapidly. For instance, we knew we had a water shortage. We knew we would need desalination. But at that time, the water sector was subsidized by the state, and you needed 3 different ministries to sign the act, which would enable us to start the first large-scale desalination faculty. And the morning they were supposed to sign it, it rained. So someone looked out the window and said, "Oh, okay, it's raining. Drought is over. We don't need such expensive water." And we lost another few years. Now, what is the problem when you lose another few years? Either we cut back water for the agriculture and we couldn't supply the amount of water that we needed, or we exploit the natural sources and damage them. So we have one stop, which most of the stakeholders are around the table, and they make the decisions. We have the water authority, of course. We have the finance ministry, environmental, interior, energy and water, agriculture, and representatives of the public, which usually come from the academy. And this table of professionals make the decisions. Where will we take our water from? What will be the prices? What will be the standards of supplying them? The only factor which is not around the table is the health ministry, which has total independence to legislate whatever is necessary to keep the health of the population. This is drinking water standards, and this is standards for using treated wastewater. What are our principles of our water authority and our water board? The regulation is we have a one decision-making regulatory body, so we can make our decisions and take them out. And it's run by professionals, and it's an integrated approach. In the financing, we have a cost recovery for all suppliers and a uniform fee for all customers. And we have high quality standard service for the population. Let's talk about money. I mean, that's what's interesting, isn't it? Tariffs. We have tariffs for house use and we have tariffs for agriculture. We have a political decision that the tariffs will be uniform, meaning regardless of the price of supplying water, all customers will pay the same price. And this is good, for instance, for policy decisions. If we want to have a farmers activating far away from water sources because we think it's important for the environment or for the population or for whatever reason it is, then you will say it's pay the same price if you're very close to the water source or very far from the water source. We have a 2-bulk tariff system for the households, which the average cost or the accumulated cost will cover all costs of supply, but it will allow households with low income that want to save water, they will be able to really have a very low price. And people which want to use more water, they can use it, but it will pay a higher price, and at the end, we will cover all our costs. If we're talking in agriculture, the prices for water in agriculture are much lower. With reclaimed water, and most of the agriculture today is using reclaimed water, we have high quality reclaimed water for about 30 cents, a little bit more. Low quality, limited reclaimed water for irrigation is a little bit under 30 cents. And if you want to use potable water for agriculture, as long as you have a quota and we have the amounts, it's about 55 American cents. And we have a economic motivation for the people, for the farmers, to use the water, the reclaimed water, which we want them to use, to add it to our balance. How do we encourage efficient use? Okay, we are regulators, okay? So the first thing I think as a regulator, I'll make a law. I'll make a law that everyone has to use water efficiently. This is not what we did. This is what we tried not to do. We tried going actually in a different way and have the free market find its best solutions. And how do we do it? We decided that all water has to be measured, and all water you will pay for the tariffs. And the tariffs are based on the measurement. So every house, every apartment, every kindergarten, every synagogue, every church, every office, every public garden will have metering to determine how much water it used, and it will pay by the amount of water that they use. And if you pay by the amount of water you use, you have motivation to save water. And once you have motivation to save water, you will have the private sector find its solutions about how doing it. So we also helped it with R&D, governmental R&D, mainly for using water for agriculture, but most of the sector is built on making the motivation. You can use it on more efficient irrigation. You can use it on leakage control. You can find the solutions in better infrastructure. Find the solution, because as regulators, we've made the motivation. And really, Israel has become a international leader and a model of efficient use, also in agriculture and also in city use, because we had the need, we created the motivation, and this private sector found the solutions. And now we are easy or proud to share this knowledge with the rest of the world, with areas which once did not have this problem, but because climate change or other reasons now have a water shortage. For an example, pressurized irrigation systems. Pressurized irrigation systems increase the efficiency in about 100%, from about 40 to 50% in surface in inefficient water use to 80 to 95% in pressurized systems. And the pressurized systems can be of different kinds. It can be drip feed, it can be large sprinklers, small sprinklers. You will find the technology that is suitable for your crop and is suitable for your soil, and you have the solutions. What did we do in the municipalities? First of all, education. I know a joke, I don't know if it's true, that Eskimos have 100 different names for snow, because snow is a very good, very big part of their life. Well, we have 100 different names for droughts, as droughts are a big issue in our lives. And thanks to this, then we have a lot of education starting from the kindergartens, and the water issue is very, very well known in Israel. And kids learn about it from young age, and they know how important it is, water shortage and water conservation in Israel. Of course, we have our metering. We have it in the agriculture. We also have it in the households. We have the water prices. You will pay for the water you use. You will pay for the water for gardening. And for this reason, you will find efficient ways to garden. If we are in a semi-arid area, you will find the right way to irrigate it. Smart city technologies to reduce leakage, and municipal cooperations, which is a very interesting topic, which actually I think we'll talk about it next meeting, which I get permission to talk. All this, what it has done, that it has been able to reduce the water consumption per capita. Over here, around 2008, we had a very, very severe drought. We really had a shortage of water. We started large-scale sea desalination in 2005. In 2007 and 8, when you had a drought, we did not have enough infrastructure yet. We had a big campaign for saving water, and we increased the prices, and the water use went down per capita, and we managed to survive the drought. How do we develop new water sources? We have 2 new water sources. This is the 4th component of our system. We have reclaimed wastewater and desalination. Our agriculture today is based mainly on treated wastewater, and as the years go by, it will be more and more. Just to understand what we're talking about, this is a treatment plant. Okay, this small thing is a treatment plant. We have reservoirs because we want to accumulate the water also from produced in the rainy season when we don't irrigate, and we will have a pumping station, and all the agriculture you will see here around, all of this agriculture is agriculture irrigated from the treated wastewater. It is all crops for eating. This is our food. This is what we eat. We eat food that was grown on treated wastewater. This is a direct system. You use the water from the treatment plant into the reservoirs and to the fields. We have another system, which is an indirect system, which we take the water of Tel Aviv area, a metropolis, infiltrate it to the aquifer, and then supplied to agriculture in the southern part of Israel. Desalination, we have 5 large-scale faculties, which will be built in the last 15 years. And as our population will grow, our solution will be to add more and more faculties. Some of them are already in construction, some of them are in tender, some of them are being planned. And as the years go by, we already have a plan where we need more and more. What do we need for these faculties to use? We need energy. Okay, we are based on energy. These are energy consumptions. And as long as we have the energy, we will have the solution. We have a lot of water quality issues because our population is dense. And in the past, we didn't pay enough attention. We didn't pay attention enough to water quality. So in our natural water sources, we have problems of contamination, NAPLs and floating factors. And we are working a lot on monitoring and remediation to preserve our natural water sources. Although we're basing half of our system on manufactured water, it's very important to maintain our natural water sources. We have a lot of prevention of industrial wastewater harming the system. Okay, if you want to treat wastewater, if you want to use treated wastewater, then you have to treat the water. If you want to treat the water, first of all, you have to gather it and collect it. And for that, you need a system that works. You have to make sure that the industry do not add substances that will damage the treatment plant and enable using the water for agriculture. A main issue we have in Israel is salinity, salt, chloride, sodium. As plants don't like salinity, most plants don't like salinity, and they're very, very strict about it. They meet high salinity, they simply die, and that's a problem. So we have a lot of emphasis on industry to make sure what they are disposing into the general system to make sure that we can continue working. To sum it up, what we've done in Israel during 15 years, from the late 90s until about 5 years ago, we have totally changed the system of our water sources. We've gone down from almost 80% of natural water sources to 35% of natural water sources, potable, high quality water sources. And all the rest are either manufactured water, like desalinated water or recycled treated water, or natural water, but it's low quality natural water. And this is also what we see coming in the future. We will use the same amount of natural potable water, which is a sustainable amount that renews every year in the rain that we have in our region. And every additional water will come from desalination. And as long as the desalination grows for the household population, we will also have more sewage, and we will also have more treated sewage that we will be able to use. And this is our long-term solution. So this is our sustainable approach for management of our water. For us, it works. Our leader, Yora Shacham, said at the beginning, we have solved our problem. Well, I'll be a little bit more modest. We manage today to run a system that we have enough water in quantity and in quality to provide to the Israeli population. And we also have enough that we can also provide to our neighbors. It has a cost, and the Israeli population can pay that price, as the GDP in Israel is relatively high and the population can pay it. And for this reason, our water is not subsidized. And the moment that water is not subsidized, then the water sector has its independence to take decisions and build the infrastructure we needed, which in the past, when the water sector was subsidized, well, 1 year you would get subsidized and 1 year you wouldn't. We're in the Middle East. We, every few years, have the strange habit of having a little war, not a big war, a little war. And then all the budget could go to submarines or whatever they decide they need. Or 1 year you would decide that doctors need more money or a higher salary, or the teachers need a higher salary, or the nurses need a high salary, which is always true. Water sector infrastructure is usually, you can say, okay, we'll delay it just for 1 year. It won't be a problem. We'll rebuild it next year. But only when we got a closed financial system, when all cost covers are covered without subsidy, then really we managed to build our system. And we have to maintain this. If we will not manage to maintain this, or if we will not manage to add infrastructures at the right rate and build our desalination faculties and the pipes running for them, or if we will not have the energy, we will be in a problem. Thank you very much. These are our successes. Next time, we'll tell you about all our problems. Thank you.